This shot right here is taken with Sony A7C 120 frames per second in SLOG3. That justifies this camera's capability for sure. I'm in Roosevelt Park, New York City today, and throughout this video I'm gonna take you through different shots in different lighting conditions and see what this camera is capable of and what my initial thoughts are. So let's get started. Saturday, April 24th, 2021. Right now it's the springtime, so I decided to test out A7S III and the A7C. The comparison here is not to say which camera is better, because obviously A7S III has got better features. That camera is gonna be better in most situations. But what I'm trying to test here is it worth double the price of A7C to get almost 90% of the quality that A7C can offer for a 50% reduction in price? So what I found out from my test is outdoors, there is not much that you can make a difference out of. But when it comes to skin tone and the roll off from highlight to shadows, you will see a much larger difference, and A7S III kills it. So you will see that test at the end or towards the end of the video. But before, just enjoy the New York, Brooklyn montage here. All the footage that you're seeing here is shot with the A7S III while I was inside the car, so that's how the quality is. And I was using the Tamron 17 to 28mm f2.8 lens for this period of the video.
You see the drip, yeah, I'm fitted up. Hop in my car and I get it up. Secure the bag, yeah, I get the bus. Pick it up, pick it up, pick it up.
Alright, now it's the same SLOG3 setting. Only changes, I put the ND filter and the ISO is at 640, but all other things remains unchanged. And just wanted to test out the highlights, and it's pretty sunny. The sun is actually on my face, and I want to see how much highlight it's gonna recover. So if I look at the metering mode, it's at +2, so I may have to reduce the ISO. So I reduced the ISO to 400, maybe to 200. Alright, so now I reduced the ISO to 200. The metering mode says it is at +0.3. Again, it's SLOG3. So let's see how the colors and skin tone is at this extreme situation. Alright, now I'm at the exact same settings. ISO at 500, that is the lowest it goes on A7C with the SLOG3. 24 frames per second, 4K, 1/50th of a shutter, f1.8, same lens, but I have to maybe I'll have to keep the ND filter to 9 instead of 6. I'm using the Peter McKinnon ND filter. So instead of 6, I'm going to 9 because I can't reduce the ISO. So same setting as previous, but with the ISO at 500 and ND at 9 instead of 6 stops. Alright, this is how it looks like. That was the skin tone comparison between the two cameras, and right now I'm using the A7C again to shoot the Manhattan and the Roosevelt Avenue. You can go to the Roosevelt Island using the SkyTram, which is more fun, or you can also take the F train that goes directly to the island. But if you're like me and like to drive to the island, I highly recommend doing that. That way you're not dependent on anything and you can roam around in your car. And finding parking in Roosevelt Island is much easier than finding parking in New York City. So I would highly encourage you to check out the island by driving into the island rather than taking the train. The ND filter is now at 6 and SLOG3 A7C, ISO 500, f2.8, f1/50th of a shutter, 24 frames per second. Enjoy the view.
It's the money.
Alright, we got the parking at the right spot with the Manhattan city background, and it's a perfect place. And if you come early in the morning around 10 or 10:30, you should not have any issue finding a parking spot. So anyway, the plan is to walk around the island. It's a very small tiny island, so you can definitely cover in 1 to 2 hours. And make sure you wear the mask, and all information can be found in the information center which we are heading to. So see you soon on the other side.
Baby, I'm not running around looking for nobody else. I've got one thing on my mind. I already hear the bells.
Baby, I'm not running around looking for nobody else. I've got one thing on my mind. I already hear the bells.
Baby, I'm not running around. 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 Baby, I'm not. Baby, I'm not. Baby, I'm not. Baby, I'm not.
Alright, I think I'm running around. No kidding. I'm just taking the camera and just walking across the park, testing different things. Right now I'm testing the SLOG3 in shades to see how it performs, and also the stabilization with hand holding the camera. So let's see some background here of New York City, and it looks gorgeous. Look at those.
Everything about you calling out to me, I got to hold, yeah. Everything about you calling out to me, I got to hold, yeah. Baby.
Alright, I'm in Roosevelt Park, New York, and today we are just testing out the A7C, different color profiles to see how it matches against the A7S III. Alright, let's go.
Of love calling out to heaven above for, yeah. Baby, I'm not running around looking for nobody else. I've got one thing on my mind. I already hear the bells. I'm a victim of love calling out to heaven above for, yeah. Baby, I'm not running around. 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 Baby, I'm not. Baby, I'm not. Baby, I'm not. Baby, I'm not. Baby,
this should be a fair comparison to see what you get right out of the camera from a color and highlight and shadows perspective. All right, very controlled test. I am sitting in a controlled light environment, so I have one light here on both left and right, set at white balance 5500 Kelvin. So on the camera here, I'm picture profile off and 1/50th of a shutter, f1.8, ISO 200. And again, this is picture profile off and shooting at 24 frames per second. Alright, now this is A7S III with the same settings, picture profile off, XAVC-S 4K 24 frames per second, 422 10-bit, f1/50th of a shutter, f1.8, ISO 200, 5500 Kelvin. So this is a comparison just to see what you get right out of the camera with no picture profile and with a controlled lighting environment. So this is how it looks like. What do you think?